Vicky Ward, welcome back to Mea Culpa. So good to see you, my friend. First of all, the first thing I have to do is congratulate you on the new book, The Idaho Four. You co-wrote that, if I'm not mistaken, with James Patterson. You want to give, there you go, look at that.
Giving it a plug, Michael. Yes, The Idaho Four comes out on Monday. And it is now that Bryan Kohberger has pled guilty to the murders of Kaylee Gonzalez, Maddie Mogan, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin. The Idaho Four is now the definitive and only account of what actually happened in Moscow, Idaho in November 2022. Obviously, there was a huge amount of curiosity about what his motive could have been. And that this book, I think, lays it all out. And it also, Michael, is the portrait of a small town America. Moscow, Idaho is actually a very interesting place. It's a liberal college town in a deeply Republican state. And the book really sort of takes you in there and into all the social and political and cultural divisions in that town, which it turns out was sort of simmering with tension right when the murders happened because of COVID. There's a conservative church there that had refused to mask during COVID. Trump had even weighed in, believe it or not, supporting the church on Twitter. And some of them had been arrested for assembling in public without masking, and lawsuits between the police and members of the church were flying. And into the middle of this, the murders happened. So the book is much more than just a true crime book. It gets into all of that as well.
Since we're going to be getting into all of that, let's just jump right into it. By the way, I want my signed copy from you because I love your writing. Meanwhile, Vicky, I want to bring up the very first big topic that's going on right now. And obviously that's Elon Musk, who is reportedly laying out the groundwork to create a third party backed technically by himself and Silicon Valley cash, right? Including a whole slew of MAGA operatives. You think this is about disruption, or do you think it's about domination?
Well, no, given that it's Elon Musk, right, I would definitely go for disruption. I think that's what he does, right? I mean, wasn't that the whole point of what he was trying to do with Doge? And I think, I understand that Elon Musk likes to create chaos, and I understand that he's got, a beef now with President Trump. But, Michael, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. I mean, one of the things I think we all know.
You do know that I'm the interviewer and you're the interviewee. Okay. This isn't like no.
Yeah, you and I, because you obviously worked alongside, Trump. I know Trump, so we always have good sort of back and forth on this. I learn from you, you learn from me. But obviously, I was sort of fascinated by this. Of my first reaction was, I get what that Elon Musk is, if we're allowed to say this, pissed off. And I get that he wants to disrupt, and I understand all the reasons for him doing this. But it didn't go so well for him getting involved in politics. It didn't go so well for his business, right? Mm-hmm. He didn't just leave Washington with his tail between the legs because he sort of fell out with Trump. The Tesla stock tanked.
Well, let's break that down for a second, because he didn't leave as a result of a fallout. He left because he did not have a government position. And as a direct result, there was a time period that he knew when he first started that he could not be involved in government for greater than that amount. Otherwise, he would have to give up his positions with SpaceX, his position with Tesla, and so on. And this was the time period. Where the fallout came from, to be honest, I don't know the answer. What I do know is that immediately after receiving from Trump as a gift the key to the country, Elon Musk went on one of these ketamine binged Twitter rages talking about Trump being incompetent, Trump's relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, and a whole slew of other let's poke the bear type of behavior. Now, I don't even want to get into yet the different topics that Elon Musk started to poke at Trump. As I wrote in my Substack about 2 days ago, Elon is creating potentially the worst self-inflicted pain that any human being, second maybe to myself, can ever experience, because Trump, for all of his bravado, truly understands and has understood for a long time now how to weaponize the government. So all these folks that are saying, well, Elon's the richest guy in the world, he'll be able to figure this out. I want to be clear. I don't care if Elon had twice the amount of money that he currently has. You're never richer than the United States government, and you're certainly never more powerful than the sitting president of the United States, especially one who's willing to abuse the power as President Trump. So Elon is basically sitting on a powder keg, and he's the idiot that's smoking a cigarette.
Well, and Michael, to your point, given what you just said, not only is Trump powerful as the president, as we know, this is a kleptocracy as well as a presidency. And Trump's prongs into Silicon Valley go very, very, very deep. You've got the Peter Thiel relationship with J.D. Vance, who my sources tell me is at this point very likely to be Trump's successor. As of now, he's the anointed heir. Anything could happen. It's a long way to go. But you've also got, my favorite topic, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Jared Kushner's brother, Josh Kushner, are major, major investors in the Silicon Valley power base. So the idea, I completely agree with you that Elon Musk out of nowhere is going to come in and seriously create an entity that would be any threat to Donald Trump's Republican Party, I think.
But you cannot, nobody should think for a second that Trump is just going to allow Elon Musk to come in to create this third party, because all you need to do is to whisper in Trump's ear and say, hey, this is going to be really bad for you, right? This is going to wreck the whole GOP. Yeah. This is going to wreck your legacy, your future, etc. And then this third party is terminated, along with Elon Musk's money, along with Elon Musk's power, along with Elon Musk's ownership interests in his various companies, and most probably end up with incarceration.
Gosh, Michael. Well, I hope Elon Musk is listening to you, because
unfortunately, his ego is too big too. Yeah, right. You were saying?
Well, you've lived this, but I think that the lesson from the first days, months of the Trump second presidency is that, he's testing the limits of power of the presidency in a way that nobody, I think, has ever done before. And right now, he would be a very, very dangerous person and a very powerful person to go up against. I hope that changes in the midterms. I hope that the House swings back and that Congress finds its spine, and that the three branches of government function better. I'm actually less pessimistic than other people, Michael. I think that the courts, for the most part, are holding. That, I think the system is standing. I'll be curious. You're the lawyer here, but yeah, I mean, right now, I was just in England, and all anybody could talk about over there, their perspective of America is that that it has just become like a developing country dictatorship, that the kleptocracy is so blatant and so egregious, and that we have lost all our moral standing in the world, but that, of course, at home, that makes Trump a powerful dictator, effectively.
And who intends on keeping that power.
Yes.
And when you have somebody like Steve Bannon, who, whether you like him or you don't, and I'm not a fan, whispering in the ear of Trump and whispering in the other ear to Peter Thiel, right, who are all bankrolling this in the background. I even read an article, I don't know it to be factually accurate, but I did read an article that even says Mark Cuban is now jumping on board with Elon Musk. I don't know it to be true, but that is what I read.
Well, that could be because Mark Cuban is a maverick, right?
Yes, and Mark Cuban likes the spotlight and, nothing like hanging out with the guy who's the richest guy in the world. Look, Mark Cuban's got some crazy ego too. But here's the thing. The question I was actually asked, and I'm not sure of the answer, which is why I'm coming to the expert. Do you think Musk is building a party, or do you think he's building a tech-fueled nationalist cult that literally bypasses both the Republican and the Democratic parties?
Well, listen, Elon Musk's mind works like nobody else's, right? I mean, but the cult sounds like something I can believe in. I mean, you're going to think I'm mad, Michael, because I've said this to a few people, but what the philosophy of these tech guys is actually about something called transhumanism. And one of the reasons that Elon Musk was in such a hurry with Doge wasn't necessarily for the reasons that a lot of conservatives believe. It's not just about the efficiency of government. People like Elon Musk really are serious about the fact that they want to get to Mars. They're not that interested in what's going on planet Earth. Peter Thiel's actually written about this. It's all about how we as a species evolve, and not everyone is going to evolve, and not everyone is going to get to Mars. And I think that, there was a lot of self-interest in what Elon Musk was doing, and that wasn't necessarily talked about at the time. And I'm sure that, the idea of this party, I mean, is not an altruistic idea. It's an idea that will tally with what he's trying to do with the technology and everything with SpaceX.
Yeah, look, I don't know. I hear you. Makes perfect sense. Personally, I don't give a shit about Mars. I'm worrying about right here on planet Earth, to be honest with you, and fuck him and his ambitions. We're going to get into it also with Doge and their cuts and how they fucked up the National Weather Service and how they cut NOAA and the results that came and are still coming out of it, which is haunting me when I close my eyes. As a kid who went to summer camps, I'm haunted by it. But, the reason I believe that Trump is going to shut this shit down and shut it down hard, knowing Trump, and if I was still in that inner circle, I could tell you, I know exactly what Trump's directive to me would be in regard to shutting this thing down, simply because Musk controls the platform X, where there is so much political discourse. I mean, that is where political discourse lives. If he starts using that platform to push candidates or policies or go anti-Trump, anti-MAGA, or I shouldn't even say anti-MAGA, just anti-Trump, I think that legitimately, if they don't shut it down, which I'm certain Trump will, I see it as being the end of free elections as we know them. You agree?
Wow. So, Michael, just walk me through. You think Trump shuts down X?
Yes, I do.
On what grounds? I mean, I under TikTok, he can, whatever he decides ultimately to do there, right? That's about China. What grounds would he shut down X? How would he do?
Violation of the First Amendment. He's going to claim it's fraud. The same way that he went after CBS, the same way he went after ABC, defamation, every single post that comes out there, they're going to claim it's a national security threat, which the Supreme Court gave him unlimited authority to do. He will claim that it is a communist, it is based on assisting China. Does it really matter what the basis is? The answer is no. They run off of licensing here in the United States. They will make it impossible for X to continue to do business. And that's just what they're going to do. They will shut this thing down. I could actually, if I sat down for a half hour, I could probably come up with 10 different ways within which to shut X down based upon its platform. You can go on the whole theory of anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, misogyny, xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia. You can base it. This platform is one of the most vile platforms that's around there. In fact, if they would make me into the lead plaintiff in a class action defamation lawsuit against Elon Musk, X, and all of the various different people that are on that platform, they'll make it in such a way that if you defame somebody or if you have a misstatement that's in there, it's going to be incumbent upon X to go ahead and not to allow that post to go out. And if they do allow that post to go out, well, they're promoting the defamation. No different than if it was a newspaper or something. Whatever it is.
So basically, it's like Harvard. He's going to use the sort of the hate speech. Yeah, he could. I see that. I mean, listen, I am not a fan. I mean, I don't spend much time on X. I mean, these days I go there and I find, a bunch of crap that I've no interest really in reading. On the other hand, free speech, I mean, it's a slippery slope, isn't it? Whereas the line between free speech and hate speech, you start curtailing people's right to free speech, which you can have. I grew up in England. It's not a country that has that. It's one of the things that I think makes America great. I'm a proud US citizen, proud immigrant. And you start doing that, even though I think most of what is on X is garbage. I think closing it would be terrible.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you know what England now has that the United States doesn't have?
Yeah.
A woman's right to her own reproductive decision making. Right? So you think that it's possible that we can easily shut down X? I could shut down X in a week. If Trump gave me the go ahead, I could shut X down in a week. In fact, I could bankrupt Elon Musk just on defamation cases. Right? Just imagine that.
Wow. Am I allowed to ask you a question? How do you think Trump...
Vicky, you could ask me anything you like. We go back too many years for you not to.
So how do you think... So are you shocked by how organized Trump has been this time compared to the Trump you work with?
It's different. The first time around, despite the fact there were so many in his inner circle that I did not like, they were more establishment. Today, they're not establishment. They're also not even qualified. When we watch Pete Hegseth turning around and stopping armaments going into Ukraine that have already been approved, not just by Congress, but by Trump as well. And he puts a pause onto it. Just imagine, right? When Trump was completely taken off guard. He
Yeah.
was by this act. And while on television at that cabinet meeting, Hegseth didn't even say anything. They are all unqualified individuals. When you have 26 different people in government right now that are former Fox News employees, you know that, well, let's just say incompetence is running rampant. But I want to just jump back into this because I know that you, Vicky, have followed elite power structures for decades. You think Musk's potential third party represents let's just say, the merging of authoritarian populism with unchecked tech oligarchy?
Well, it could be. It could be.
It could be, right?
Yes, Michael. I mean, you know, there are a few things worse than Trump, but when you put it like that, I mean, that's pretty frightening, isn't it?
It is, right? I mean, that's what I think, not a lot of people I could ask that question to right off the rip, but, you happen to be one of them. But let's jump away from Musk because there's so much. You asked a great question about the differences and so on.
Yeah.
The problem, again, is when you have so many unqualified people that have access to Trump's ears. When they start talking to him, and they're great with the slogans, that Trump is great at, he's not just great, he is a master at branding. When you start with that branding 90 days ago, 90 deals, 90 days, that whole nonsense, there is no legislation regarding it. There are no details regarding it. In fact, there's no explanation into these 90 days, 90 deal concept. How dangerous is it that we now run economic policy by slogans?
Well,
you didn't think this was going to be an easy interview, did you?
No, I didn't. I mean, you're right. It is the problem. It's not even just running it just by slogans. It's also by barometer, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, at the end of the day, as you know, what was it that TACO stood for? I mean,
Trump always chickens out.
There you go. At the end of the day, he's looking at the markets. And, it's like being on a game show, right? As long as he thinks everyone, or a reality show, as long as he thinks everyone's watching and they're with him and supportive, look at the tariffs. And then when the economy tanked, I think what he did in that case, he was right to pull it away. But what it shows you goes back to what you said at the beginning about incompetent people being in his ear. Everything he's done about the economy doesn't lead us to think that there are grown-ups with a cohesive economic policy or trade policy who've talked to him and persuaded him, and there's no clear selling of it. It just feels that Trump is sort of, he had one idea, he had to do a U-turn. Now, this is about marketing. You're right, Michael. It's about marketing, and he'll see if he can pull it off, but it's not about anything fundamentally good for our economy, I don't think.
Of course not, right? What do you think?
Although, Michael, I will say this to you. Someone close to Trump and has known him for a long, long time, said something to me, shortly after the inauguration that I think is directionally right. Broadly, Trump wants to be the peace and prosperity president. I mean, that's what he wanted at the outset of this. He wants to win the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, I think he's been quite overt about that. And he wanted certainly to come in and go down in the history books. And I think, again, the man very well. I know him a bit. He cares about his legacy. He does.
He does.
And he wanted, I think he wants, he's not trying to screw things up for the economy, but it does. The tariffs and all of that does feel like a muddle. And obviously, when it comes to peace, again, it's all felt a bit muddled, because he said on the one hand he wanted to pull America out of wars and he wanted to solve everything. Well, instead we've dropped a bunker buster bomb on Iran, and we don't seem to be really getting anywhere with Ukraine and Russia. So
Israel and Hamas, right. Or it's not. It doesn't just start and stop there, But hey, Vicky, let me ask you this though: what does it say about Trump's White House that even his senior officials, this is to your point, even Trump's senior officials cannot explain what this tariff plan actually is? I know people have asked that of Lutnick. I know Howard Lutnick longer than I know Trump. I know Howard longer than I know Trump. Let me be very clear. Howard doesn't know what the tariff plan actually is. When you start sending letters to countries, Laos, Myanmar, Cambodia, Thailand, Bangladesh, Serbia, Indonesia, Bosnia, Africa, South Africa, Japan, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, South Korea, Tunisia. These are the next ones on the tariff rates by letter. Imagine you're the president or prime minister of that country, and you receive a letter that turns out, it doesn't even address you by your name. Dear President of Japan, right? Which is the prime minister, by the way. But it says, Dear Mr. President of Japan, you now owe us 25%. Out of nowhere, they're now 40% on copper. They're here, they're there. Nobody understands. Nobody has been able to explain what this tariff plan actually is and what it is expected to accomplish, because the answer is it's going to accomplish nothing other than isolating America and throwing us into a recession, or at least an inflationary problem.
To play devil's advocate, wasn't the answer to do with this something to do with the national debt?
Well, that was what they were predicating the tariffs on. But what we know, and I like the same branding that Trump does, I'm pretty damn good at it. Consumers pay tariffs. Right. 3 words. Tariffs are taxes. This notion that the country of origin is paying the tariff. 10 out of 10 of the top economists in this country have said that is just simply inaccurate. If that was the answer on an exam that they were giving in college or in high school or in graduate school, you would get an F.
Right. Well, isn't this, look, I'm just now going off what I read. But I do know Peter Navarro. I know him actually, reasonably well. I haven't spoken to him in this administration, but the tariffs are his baby, right? And my understanding from people I talk to is that Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent were the ones who went in initially when the market was tanking. They used the window of Peter Navarro's absence from Trump's side to go in and reverse on that. So when you say Howard Lutnick can't sell it, my question is, does Howard Lutnick even agree with it?
Of course he does. That's the funny thing. Does he actually in his heart agree with it? Or is he at least smart enough, which I know he is, to know that if you counter Trump's comment, you're toast. It's the question's not when you're getting shit canned. All right. It's not if you're getting shit canned, it's when you're going to get shit canned, like what just happened with Pete Hegseth. All right. With, again, as I was talking about before, when it came to the pause on the transfer of the weapons, it's not if, it's just a matter of when.
Well, am I allowed to ask you this? Are you in touch with Howard Lutnick?
No, I have seen, I saw him a couple of weeks back, but we don't discuss this. No. And so on. But look, I'm just trying to get, your thoughts onto, since again, you do know Navarro. I get that they think this is a way of balancing things out. But I've even explained to people, just for example, since one of the ones I mentioned is Vietnam. Vietnam's one of their biggest sources of income is that they produce Nike sneakers.
Yeah.
All right. That's what they produce. United States, we produce military equipment. We produce technology. We're a service-oriented company, right? We're not a manufacturing country, right? And so this notion just takes us back to 150 years when the United States was a bigger manufacturing company, but we're just a country. We're just not that anymore. Hey, can I just jump back into Pete Hegseth for a quick second? All right, because we're never going to get anywhere, right? So this schmuck goes ahead and he pauses the military aid to Ukraine. Here's his big mistake, something I wrote about in a different Substack. He did it without notifying Trump.
Right.
He didn't notify anybody.
Right.
Do you think that was more than a miscommunication? Right? Don't you think it's a breach of command? Literally bordering, since he thinks he's the big military G.I. Joe action figure. Isn't it like bordering on insubordination?
Yes. I'd be sure. Yes.
And what do you think the repercussions are going to be?
Well, I wonder if I think you alluded to this, if he may wind up losing his job.
Listen, let me shoot straight with you. Some days, the weight of the world, it feels like it's sitting on my damn chest. Between the headlines, the hypocrisy, and the nonstop chaos, I need something that helps me decompress with literally knocking me out cold or leaving me with a hangover from hell. That's why I tried IndaCloud. And let me tell you, it's a game changer. One Bliss gummy, and suddenly I'm off the clock. Not stoned, not sluggish, just good. I mean, it helped me to sleep. I slept like I hadn't been indicted. I mean, these guys get it. Whether it's gummies, pre-rolls, or flour, it's all federally legal. It ships fast, tastes great, and it actually works. And the vibe? You get totally dialed in. It's like getting on a calm and without the hassle. No sketchy street stuff, just smart, safe, grown-up relaxation. So here's what you do. If you're 21 or older, go to indacloud.co and use code Cohen and get 25% off your first order plus free shipping. That's indacloud.co. And again, use code Cohen. So again, indacloud.co, code Cohen. You're going to wish you found this sooner.
I mean, I think you don't muck around with defense, and Trump knows that. And to your point, and Trump does not like ever, even for a second, looking like he is not completely in charge, particularly of something as important as that. So I think if this were an episode of The Apprentice, which in some ways it is, the words "you're fired" will be, I would not be shocked. I think there are probably a lot of people around Trump who are feeling nervous. But Michael, I mean, the other thing that I also think, it's funny when you leave the country for a while and you go and you see America viewed from other countries' perspectives, it's sort of interesting. I mean, I suspect that a lot of the things that Trump has done, because, you know, when I was in England, people said to me, are you surprised by what Trump has done? I don't think I'm necessarily surprised at what he's done, because I think he told us what he was going to do. I think it's how he's done it that's been the problem, right? And I think that when you talk about it's the how, and, you know, the generic letter, dear Japanese president, or whatever it is, that's offensive and rude and not likely to, you know, get you anywhere. And I, you know, obviously the all the executive orders, you know, rather than going through, you know, bills, you know, all the executive orders that have tested the system. I mean, that's, I think, what has felt troubling, right? But when it comes to the policies, and I'm just sort of deliberately playing devil's advocate here. I mean, he did win the election, and, you know, there are probably voters who are 100% behind him. I mean, I'm thinking, let's take what he's done in the fight against Harvard, for example. I mean, most people don't care about Harvard, right?
I don't.
Yeah. So again, you know, he's, you know, so, and all the ICE agents rounding up of people and the shipping of Kilmar Abrego Garcia and all, and, you know, and then bringing him back under the, like, oh, well, we've got this, you know, I mean, you know, I'm going to be so curious to see what happens in the midterms and take the temperature of America.
Well, but we don't really have time to discuss midterms, because you're talking, we're only in the first, you know, we're in the first 6 months of the presidency, and look at all of the damage that these enablers around him have actually caused. Now, yes, Trump is the chief executive. The buck stops at the top, or as the expression goes, shit rolls downhill. But, you know, this is it's a real problem. And I'm going to show you the difference between what's going on right now versus what would be going on. Imagine for a second if the Secretary of Defense under Joe Biden ever paused weapons, for example, to Israel during a war, or insert name of country, right, during a war, without notifying the president. Imagine the GOP's response. They would be screaming treason. They would be screaming treason. Why is this, in essence, being swept under the rug, right? And why are Democrats not out there screaming? Absolutely silence from them.
I wish I had an answer for you on this. You know, again, there are times when, you know, I'm a very proud citizen of this country, but sometimes I miss the British system of parliamentary debate. Not least because it keeps the other party, the one that's not in power, more visible. And you know, if we had that right now, you would think that there would be people jumping all over it. But you know, I think the Democrats right now are lost. Yeah. You know, we don't know really in what shape they're going to come back. Which is why I keep talking about the midterms, because hopefully by then there might be some answers. I mean, we might have got a glimpse of it in the New York mayoral, in the Democratic primary. You know, maybe that's the new image of the Democrat Party. Zoran, you know, we'll have to wait and see. But you are 100% right, Michael. You know, where is the outrage?
So you want me to tell you my thoughts on this one?
Yeah.
Okay. And to my listeners, listen to me carefully on this. I think Pete Hegseth is endemic of a deeper rot that's going on right now in our government. And the problem is MAGA appointees feel empowered to freelance, whether it's foreign policy, whether it's domestic policy. They all think that they can freelance, that they are within the inner circle. They're within the right. What was Robert De Niro in Meet the Fockers, right? In the circle of trust. They all believe that they're within the circle of trust, and therefore they can do whatever they want, whether it's freelance foreign policy, whether it's undermine national strategy. They're able, in their minds, to use their positions to do what they think is the right thing to do. And again, the big mistake that Hegseth made here is that he did not clear it with Trump. For God's sakes, when I was at the Trump organization, you wanted to buy a fucking box of paper clips. You had to run that by Trump too. Oh, here's the order. And you put your name down onto it, you sign off onto it, and then Trump put his initials underneath it. That's how purchasing order. You imagine fucking paper clips and pens? And we're not talking about...
Yes, yes.
So I assure you, this is not going to escape anything. Oh, no. And you're not wrong, because you're 1,000% right here. Ukraine's survival right now depends on the United States' defense shipments. And Trump is angry at Putin because he does want the Nobel Peace Prize. By the way, I think there are better domestic ways for Trump to get the Nobel Peace Prize than even to do it, via these international conflicts and so on. But putting all that aside, Pete Hegseth's actions undermine Trump's ability, and that's all he's focusing on right now.
I'll tell you what on this subject, Michael, that I thought was very, very striking was when we had, the group text leak. Signalgate, thank you. There was a lot of chat on that I think illustrates exactly what you're talking about, where, JD, Hegseth, they were all weighing in on something that Trump had told them to do in Yemen. And they were all chit-chatting away, giving their 10 cents of, and then Stephen Miller comes in and basically shuts them all up and cuts them off and says, wait a minute. Trump was very clear. He said, we're doing this. End of discussion. And I thought that was very telling. I mean, I see in the, media, there's been quite a lot of profiles of Stephen Miller recently, because he's a fairly interesting, scary individual. But in a way, he seems to me to have become almost like Trump's enforcer this time round. So when all the sort of the children are
rest assured, he's no Michael Cohen. I could assure you on that one. I could assure you on that one. Stephen Miller's just copying Corey Lewandowski in the notion, let Trump be Trump. And the one thing Stephen Miller certainly understands, Trump is the boss. Same way I understood it, the same way everybody the first time around understood it. You know how many of these enablers, these insiders, are all running around, turning around, telling people that they are the ones who are running the government? I mean, that would be like me running around and saying I was running the Trump organization, or my secretary or my assistant is running the Trump organization. I can't tell you how many people these enablers, these individuals, have said that exact line to. I mean, I find it absolutely astounding. And it's why I believe so many of them, like the first time around, there's so many that are going to get shit canned. Right now, Trump is trying to focus on the bigger problems that are out there, but he doesn't have legitimately nobody to rely upon, because each one is acting independently, and they're all acting as if they're freelancers, right? That they're the ones running this company. But Vicky, I want to get to one last topic, because this one really upset me, and it's upsetting to the entire country. And I'm talking about what took place in Texas with the flooding.
Yes. Oh, it's terrible, Michael.
Beyond. And I'll tell you, there's so much anger, and
Yeah.
rightfully so, directed at the administration, specifically with Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency,
Yeah.
DOGE, which made it their business to do stupid things like cut funding to NOAA, to the National Weather Service, literally
Well,
gutting storm alert systems that could have, and I don't say that it would, all of them, but it could have saved some lives in Texas. Let me
yes.
ask you this. How is this not state-sanctioned manslaughter?
Well, look, I think there should be inquiries, investigations, and I think that, again, we come back to, it's not necessarily what Trump does, but how he does it, and the speed and the thoughtlessness with which those cuts occurred have very real costs. And you see that regarding the weather and the alerts in Texas. And, I think it's a disgrace. And, again, when I was overseas, I have various friends who work in overseas development for the British government. And they were telling me they're in places like Africa. And they were telling me, they saw firsthand what happened when US aid was cut. And they were like, sure, did there need to be cuts? Yes, absolutely. There was a lot of waste, but the way it was done meant that there were women giving birth in all sorts of really difficult circumstances, and that literally the doctors and the care and all the things they needed to help them, give birth, but suddenly, literally just in a second, were removed from them. And that it became a very volatile and dangerous, and people died. And so again, it's the way that things aren't being thought through, and then there is a real cost to that, and there has been a terrible human cost in Texas. I mean, it's a tragedy and it's a travesty.
Agreed. That, by the way, that's a great line. Imagine this: not one administration official has either taken responsibility or had the finger pointed at them for this tragedy / travesty. Not one.
So
and I'm going to go.
Where are the Democrats, Michael?
That's what that was the question I was going to ask you. Where the hell are the Democrats within which you cannot have a strategy, and this is the GOP strategy, to blame woke meteorologists, all right, while they're dismantling our public safety infrastructure. But, I read this morning, I get up at like 4:30 in the morning. I start writing my Substack, at that time, so I can get it out by, say, 8 o'clock in the morning. I read an article that absolutely blew me away. I thought I was going to throw up. Are you aware that the state of Texas has a flood, it's called a rainy day fund in Texas? You got to Google this. It's called the Rainy Day Fund. $30 billion of cash sitting in a rainy day fund in the state of Texas that I guess they use, to earn income on. They probably have it in bonds and other sorts of things. $30 billion. So even while the federal government, with this bullshit DOGE and all that, Governor Abbott could have easily gone ahead and started to purchase these sirens, these infrastructure scenarios, these mappings, all of the things that could have been done in order to save the lives of the constituents, of the people of the state that put the 30 billion into that fund. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I was like, you've got to be shitting me. And so I read the article a second time. 30 billion in a rainy day fund. Talk about irony in terms of its name, right?
Yeah. Wow. Michael, that's astonishing. And again, you know, where are the Democrats in Congress? Where is Congress on this?
And you know what they'll tell you, Vicky? You know what they're going to tell you? They're going to turn around and tell you there's nothing we can do. We're outnumbered. Where all the power exists in the Republicans. It's why we have to win in 2026 so that we could restore power. We could be doing these investigations. Fuck you. How about that?
Well, you know what?
How about get away from behind your gilded podium, right? So that you can stop making these stupid speeches and actually do something.
Right. I mean, they should be down there talking to the people. I mean, you know, I mean, this is sort of absolutely basic stuff. And I want to say, you know, when you think back to other tragedies around, you remember the whole New Orleans thing, you know, I feel like politicians race there. But I mean, I think this is where the country needs to have somebody elected asking questions on voters, you know, on our behalves, and the people who ask the questions would deserve to have our votes when election time comes. I mean, it's the silence. Silence is complicit.
Yep, I agree with you, Vicky Ward. Thank you. Look forward to reading your book. You want to give it one last plug?
I do, everyone. It really is. It's a story about America.
It's another tragedy, by the way.
Now, it is. It's a terrible, terrible tragedy. I mean, that's why we call it the Idaho Four, an American tragedy. And it is the story of something absolutely terrible that happened, but it's also the story of where we are in America now, which you might not necessarily get from the title, but it's about where we are now and the internet and social media and all the things, believe it or not, Michael, that you and I have just talked about for 50 minutes.
Yeah. Well, Vicky, great seeing you, my friend.
I'll
be seeing you very, very soon. Thank you, and congrats on the book.
Thank you.